My mother slid the white envelope across the mahogany dining table and smiled with the kind of practiced warmth that made cruelty look like a blessing. Sloane has had such a demanding year with her design firm, so your father and I bought her the full 10-day architectural tour of Milan. First-class flights, private guides, luxury villa, $16,000. The table erupted into applause. My older sister, Sloane, pressed both hands to her face, gasping with rehearsed shock. Then Mom reached into her purse and tossed a plain card onto my bread plate. Inside was a single $5 Mega Millions quick pick. And for Kelsey, since you always tell us you're completely content with your little municipal salary, we decided to give you some luck. My father let out a booming laugh from the head of the table. If it hits, Kelsey, you can pay for our next anniversary dinner. 19 people laughed. My cousin Marcus had his phone raised, recording the entire gift exchange for the family group chat. 3 days later, every single number on that $5 slip matched the $84 million state jackpot. I didn't call my mother. I didn't text my father. I signed the back of the slip, locked it in a private bank vault, and hired a corporate asset protection attorney to place the ticket inside an anonymous, blind, irrevocable trust. When the local news announced that the sole winning ticket had been sold at the convenience store 2 blocks from my father's country club, my mother texted me, "Did you check that slip from Sunday?" I replied with 2 words, "Speak to counsel." Within 4 hours, I had 81 missed calls from my parents. The first voicemail congratulated me with breathless adoration. The last voicemail, left by my father at dusk, carried an entirely different tone. "Kelsey, do not make the mistake of claiming that money alone. Your mother bought that ticket with household funds. Legally and morally, that jackpot belongs to this family." I was 34 years old, and for 15 years I had held the title of the easy child. I worked as a lead commercial structural inspector for the Mecklenburg County Engineering Division in Charlotte. I earned $94,000 a year, owned a clean 2-bedroom townhome with an affordable mortgage, drove a paid-off Japanese crossover, and had 4 months of operating reserves in a high-yield savings account. I never called my parents when my water heater failed. I never asked my father to co-sign an auto loan. I handled my problems quietly. In my family, that discipline was treated as proof that I didn't require investment. My sister, Sloane, was 37. She was charismatic, volatile, and ran a boutique interior styling company that spent more money on marketing reels and lease concessions than it generated in net profit. My parents lived for Sloane's narrative. When Sloane booked a staging contract for a local country club, my father took 12 people out for prime rib to celebrate her executive vision. When I earned my State Master Structural Certification, an exam with a 30% pass rate, my mother patted my arm and said, "That's nice, sweetheart. Government work is so predictable." Over time, Kelsey is self-sufficient became the family excuse for every slight. The family vacations I was left out of because you're always so busy with your site audits. The modest birthday cards containing $20 bookstore vouchers, while Sloane received designer leather handbags. I told myself it didn't bother me. I built a fortress out of being unbothered. What I didn't realize was that my parents didn't value my independence. They relied on it. My silence allowed them to pour all their financial and emotional capital into Sloane without having to feel the guilt of leaving one child behind. The 35th anniversary dinner followed the script to perfection. My father had booked the private room at a golf club in South Park. The room smelled of prime rib and expensive red wine. 19 relatives were seated around the long table when Mom produced the early Christmas envelopes. When Sloane opened her $16,000 Italian tour, she looked down the table at me with an apologetic smile. "Mom, this is insane," Sloane murmured. "You really shouldn't have spent this much." "Nonsense," Dad boomed. "You're building an empire. You need international inspiration." Then came my $5 ticket. When Dad delivered his punchline, "If it hits, dinner's on you," The laughter rolled down the table. I smiled, slid the ticket into my coat pocket, and said, "I'll try not to spend the $5 all in one place." Cousin Marcus caught every second on 4K video, my mother's dismissive smile, my father's joke, and my quiet acceptance. None of us knew that Marcus's video was about to become the single most devastating piece of legal evidence in the history of our family. I forgot about the ticket until Tuesday morning. It was sitting on my entryway table beneath a set of site blueprints. The drawing had taken place on Monday night. I almost tossed the slip into the recycling bin while brewing my coffee. Instead, I opened the official state lottery portal on my laptop. I checked the first number, match, the second, match, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the gold mega ball, 14, match. The room seemed to drop in temperature by 20 degrees. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I could hear it in my ears. $84 million. I refreshed the browser cache 3 times. The numbers remained identical. For 5 seconds, every childhood instinct inside me screamed to pick up the phone and call my mother. I wanted to hear her say she was proud. I wanted to hear my father tell me I had done something extraordinary. Then, 34 years of conditioning dissolved. If I called them right now, the money would not be mine. It would become a communal rescue package for Sloane's business, an expansion fund for Dad's country club memberships, and an open account managed by a committee that had never given me a seat at the table. I walked into my bedroom, signed my legal name and date on the back endorsement strip of the ticket, placed it inside an archival Mylar sleeve, and drove directly to a private safety deposit box at a commercial bank branch where my family had no accounts. At 9 o'clock, I walked into the law offices of Dorsey, Vance, and Sterling in uptown Charlotte. Evelyn Dorsey was 52 years old, a seasoned estate and wealth preservation attorney who had represented state jackpot claimants and family offices for 2 decades. She didn't ask what car I was going to buy. She locked the conference room door and opened a fresh legal pad.
"Who purchased the ticket, Kelsey?" Evelyn asked. "My mother bought it at a convenience store on Fairview Road," I said. "She handed it to me as a gift during a family dinner on Sunday." "Did she state it was a gift in front of witnesses?" 19 relatives, I replied, and my cousin filmed the entire 30-second exchange on his phone. Evelyn smiled a slow, razor-sharp smile. "Send me that video immediately. Under state property law, a lottery ticket is a bearer instrument. The physical delivery of the slip, combined with clear donor intent and witnesses, establishes an irrevocable inter vivos gift. The moment you accepted that envelope, the ticket became your sole unencumbered personal property." Evelyn explained the reality of the numbers. The advertised $84 million was a 30-year annuity. The lump sum cash option was $38,200,000. After mandatory federal and state tax withholdings, the net liquid payout would be approximately $24,600,000. "We will not claim this under your personal name," Evelyn instructed. "We will establish the Ironwood Capital Revocable Trust. I will appear at the lottery headquarters as the trustee to sign the claim. Your name, your home address, and your personal banking profiles will never appear on a public press release."
We spent 48 hours setting up the trust, establishing multi-layered private banking accounts, and securing certified backups of Marcus's video. Then, on Thursday morning, the Charlotte media broke the story. Winning $84 million Mega Millions ticket sold at Fairview Road Market claimed by private Uptown Trust. At 10:14 a.m., my mother texted me, "Did you check that slip from Sunday?" I showed the screen to Evelyn, who nodded. I typed, "The Ironwood Trust has claimed the ticket. Everything is signed, secured, and managed through legal counsel." I set my phone to silent, placed it in my briefcase, and walked onto a construction site to inspect the structural steel of a 4-story parking deck. When I returned to my vehicle in 2 in the afternoon, my phone screen was solid with notifications. 81 missed calls, 52 from my mother, 29 from my father. There was one single text from Sloane. "Call me whenever you can breathe. I'm not asking you for a dime." I sat in my truck and listened to the voicemails in chronological order. Voicemail 1, 10:30 a.m. "Kelsey, oh my God, sweetheart, tell me this isn't a joke. Call me immediately. We are popping champagne." Voicemail 4, 11:45 a.m. "Kelsey, we really need to sit down as a family before you make any rash decisions. Your father knows people in private wealth management." Voicemail 9, 1:13 p.m. "Kelsey, pick up. We've spoken to an attorney. Your mother purchased that ticket on her credit card. That creates a legal joint asset presumption." Voicemail 14, 2:58 p.m. "Kelsey, do not make the mistake of claiming that jackpot alone. Legally and morally, that jackpot belongs to this family." The transition had taken less than 4 hours. They had gone from celebratory excitement to claiming legal ownership of the very piece of paper they had laughed at me for holding. I dialed my parents' house from Evelyn Dorsey's speakerphone. My mother picked up before the first ring finished. "Kelsey, oh my God, sweetheart, where have you been? We've been frantic."
"I've been working," I said evenly. My father's voice boomed through the receiver. "Kelsey, let's handle this sensibly. Your mother bought that ticket. It was a $5 novelty item. We never intended to transfer an $84 million estate to one child. You intended to give me a $2 gift while giving Sloane $16,000, I said. "You handed it to me. You told me it was mine. Dad, you explicitly told 19 people that if it hit, dinner was on me." "It was a joke," my mother yelled, her voice losing every shred of composure. "How is it fair that Sloane works 80 hours a week building a luxury brand and you walk away with tens of millions because of a $5 slip we bought for you? You weren't concerned with fairness when you thought I had $5, Mom. You're only concerned with fairness now that the $5 is worth $24 million. We will file an injunction with the Lottery Commission," Dad threatened. "We have the credit card receipt from the store."
Evelyn Dorsey leaned toward the microphone. "Mr. Ward," Evelyn said, her voice dropping into a freezing legal tone. "This is Evelyn Dorsey, senior partner at Dorsey, Vance & Sterling. We have 42 seconds of high-definition video footage showing Mrs. Ward delivering the physical ticket as an unconditional gift, accompanied by your verbal confirmation of the transfer. If you file a fraudulent ownership dispute with the State Lottery Commission, we will immediately initiate civil tort action for conversion and file for sanctions. Have your attorney call my office directly." The line went completely dead. Their attorney never filed a claim. When a lawyer reviews 42 seconds of clear video evidence showing an unconditional gift delivered in front of 19 witnesses, there is no lawsuit to file. 3 days later, the strategy shifted from legal intimidation to moral manipulation. My father arrived at my townhome carrying a thick black leather binder. My mother sat beside him on my sofa, her eyes red-rimmed and rehearsed. Dad set the binder on my coffee table. The cover read, "The Ward Family Financial Continuity Plan." I opened it. The tabs were neatly organized. $4 million for my parents' mortgage, retirement, and personal trust, $4 million for Sloane's design firm expansion and debt settlement, $3 million for an extended family educational reserve, $5 million in an investment syndicate managed by my father, $16 million allocated before I had even chosen an index fund. "Sudden capital destroys people, Kelsey," Dad said, leaning forward with his authoritative executive tone. "You need institutional structure. You need family governance. I have a wealth advisory board, a CPA firm, and an estate trust. None of those people are related to me, which is why they will protect my balance sheet. My mother let out a sharp, ragged breath. We are trying to make this fair, Kelsey. We gave Sloane a trip to Italy. We gave you this ticket. Why are you punishing us for blessing you? I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and felt the final, lingering thread of childhood need sever clean. You didn't bless me, Mom, I said. You threw a $5 scrap at me to make yourself feel generous after spending $16,000 on Sloane. The universe turned your insult into a fortune, and you cannot stand the fact that you gave away the one thing you actually worshipped. I pointed to the front door. Take the binder and get out of my home. That evening, Sloane called me. We met at a quiet diner off Independence Boulevard, sitting in a vinyl booth where nobody knew our names. Sloane pushed her coffee cup in small circles on the table. I told them to burn that binder, Kelsey, Sloane said softly. I told Dad that if he tried to use my name to demand $4 million, I would hire my own lawyer to keep him away from my company. I watched her face. You could have used that $4 million, Sloane. I could have used a lot of things, she said, her voice cracking, but not at the cost of being who they made me. She looked up, her eyes bright with tears. For 10 years, I thought they loved me more, Sloane whispered. I thought they celebrated me because I was special. And over the last 4 days, watching Mom talk about you, watching her tell Aunt Denise that you were always the brilliant, disciplined daughter while criticizing my business overhead, I finally understood. Understood what? They never loved me more, Kelsey, Sloane said, wiping a tear from her cheek. They loved the reflection I gave them. They loved having a daughter who looked successful at cocktail parties. The moment your number became bigger than mine, Mom switched the spotlight in 3 seconds. I wasn't their favorite child. I was just their favorite accessory. We sat in that booth for 2 hours. We didn't fix 15 years of programmed competition in one night, but for the first time in our lives, we were 2 sisters talking without our parents holding the scoreboard. The boundaries I built were permanent. I did not quit my job immediately. I took 6 weeks of accrued leave, worked with my advisory team to construct an ironclad, multi-generational wealth preservation structure, and paid off my townhome. I allocated 80% of the net proceeds into secure, diversified index funds and municipal bond portfolios. I established a private charitable foundation focused on vocational training for young women entering engineering and technical trades. I did not buy a mansion in South Park. I did not purchase a sports car. 6 months after the dinner, my father showed up at my townhome alone. He didn't bring a binder, he didn't bring financial demands. He sat on my porch, his shoulders hunched, looking older than his 62 years. We called you independent because it made it easy to ignore you, Kelsey, Dad said, staring down at his hands. We made your patience the price of your inclusion. I knew that ticket was yours the second I saw the numbers. I just couldn't bear the thought that I had spent 30 years betting on the wrong things. I didn't offer cheap forgiveness, but I listened. I appreciate you saying that, Dad, I told him. The boundary stays, but you can call me on Sundays. My mother never reached that clarity. She still tells relatives that I became cold and secretive after getting lucky. I stopped attending the large holiday gatherings. If a relative brings up the lottery, I change the subject. If they persist, I leave the room. Last Thanksgiving, Sloane and I hosted dinner together at her loft. There were no speeches about corporate titles. There were no $16,000 envelopes or $5 punchlines. Just good food, quiet music, and 2 sisters who had finally stopped auditioning for love.